All right, y'all. So I'm doing this video. I have other ones that talk about my journey, but this one's a special one. Now, I was on 7-0 for about 4 months. To give a little backstory, I was taking Suboxone from 2022 to 2026, right? And I was tired of it. I wanted to get off. I mean, my testosterone was down. My beard wasn't growing. You know, I would take biotin and all that stuff, and my libido was very low. And thank God I have a patient wife, right? Um, Now, the thing was, when I was on Suboxone, and by the way, if this video is a little slow and I'm thinking, just go ahead and push like times 0.1 or 1.5. But Suboxone stabilized me, right? I was on Kratom, and before that, I was on Methadone. All from a hernia operation, which I was addicted to pills for like a month or two, and then they put me on Methadone, and that led to me wanting to get off. So I took Kratom, and then eventually that stopped. That didn't help my pancreatitis. I had pancreatitis from something else. So I was put on Suboxone for pain by the VA. This wasn't substance use disorder. This was actual pain that Suboxone did help, kind of, right? So I was on Suboxone for 4 years, and it was kind of great for me. Now, I'm not a fan of Suboxone now, and I know a lot of people will say it saved my life. Well, it helped me too. It really did. And I had that ritual. I would take it 3 or 4 times a day, and I'd fall asleep, and then 12 hours later, when I woke up, I'd make sure it's 12 hours. The first time I took it, I would feel the euphoria. And that went on for years. I was coasting. I was happy. I was like, okay, and I finished with my undergrad, a bachelor in psychology. The VA said that they could put me through a master's degree program, voc rehab, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to become a substance use disorder counselor because I felt like I knew enough about it, right? So doing the master's degree program, and about 6 months into it, I said, you know what? I don't want to do this. I just don't want to counsel people while I'm on Suboxone. Now, I know there are counselors that are on it and are on Methadone and stuff like that. I personally didn't want to. I just got it in my head one day. I was like, I'm done. I don't want this. And so I started tapering. And I have a logbook. Started tapering in late October. Oh, I went from 28 milligrams down to 4. By the time I got to 4, I tried to jump off. I know people say 2 and then 1, whatever. But I started feeling horrible withdrawals. And I walked into a smoke shop, a vape shop here in Wyoming. And I thought I was getting Kratom. They were like, yeah, this will help you. It's stronger. And, I was like, okay, so this is, I don't remember how that interaction really went, but I remember the whole time I thought I was just taking Kratom pills, like, because I hated the leaf, the ground up leaf bits in the pills, in the capsules, because they get stuck in my throat. I have reflux, so it gets stuck in my throat. So I was like, pills, that's great. And y'all, 7-0, that's what it was. It was 7-0. It broke through the Suboxone. 4 milligrams of Suboxone, it's somewhat of a low dose, but I felt everything, and it felt like Percocet. It was It was insane. It was intense. Um, I hadn't felt anything like that, maybe since methadone. But anyway, about a couple weeks later, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can jump off from Suboxone totally. So I did. And I was just taking 7-0. And I was logging it, days off of Suboxone. And now the problem was that 7-0 is very expensive. And when I say that, let me tell you, I started in February, so February, March, April, May. So 4 months I was taking it roughly. I had $16,000 saved. That was all gone. Within 3 months, that was all gone. Because I had gotten to like 500 milligrams. At one point, I was at 1,000 milligrams a day. And 1,000, that makes it like $100 a day. So $3,000, $9,000. I mean, I don't know how all of it went away, but it did. And then I started driving. Sorry, there's people walking up and down the stairs. They keep going back and forth like, God, this has to be something weird. They keep staring at me too. Anyways, within 3-4 months, that 7-0 was gone. And I was ashamed. Let's say that, to put it mildly. It had such a grip on me that I felt like I just traded addictions, and one was far worse. And I kept pining for the days of, oh, it was free, because Suboxone came from the VA and it was free. I was maintaining, I had a normal life. My wife and I moved to Wyoming from Oregon. Everything was great. And I started being like, man, why am I doing this? Why not just go back on Suboxone? But I didn't want to go back on Suboxone because that literally took 60 days to get off of. 60 days. How did I know? Because when I didn't buy 7-0, the Suboxone withdrawals were there. And I can tell the difference between 7-0 withdrawals and Suboxone withdrawals. But I knew Suboxone was going to take so much longer. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get off 7-0 one time. If you've watched any of these videos on here, 7-0 withdrawal is... Okay, let me describe the symptoms to you. So first off, you'd wake up and you'd have tremendous anxiety right here. And it would just be constant. It's like, it's physical anxiety. It's not mental anxiety. It's this horrible feeling that you get. And the smell, there's this smell that I got. It was horrific. I couldn't explain it, but the smell that 7-0 withdrawal gives you is unlike any other. Also, diarrhea. That was really bad. But the body aches and the anxiety it made me feel like I was on fire. Like literal hell. I felt like I was in hell. I felt trapped. And another thing the other videos tell you about is when tapering off of 7-0, there's a problem. It has a very short half-life. And you would take it and it would last for, you'd be feeling okay for 4 hours, sometimes even 2. But then you'd go through the withdrawal. So if you're going to taper, you're going to feel severe withdrawals, right? And I just couldn't. I'm in a master's degree program. I'm doing school a lot, and I was an Uber Eats driver. that's how I funded some of this, is working. I mean, I was retired. I was a student. I was getting enough from my disability and um from school, and because I have severe PTSD. I was in Iraq as a medic, and I have really low back pain. Pancreatitis is also one of those things, and so a lot of 7-0 kind of helped a lot of those symptoms, except for not being able to sleep at night, staring at the door because I'm paranoid. That's just what happens when you have PTSD. But anyways, let's get back to the withdrawals. Yeah, I didn't want to go through the withdrawals of 7-0. So one day I prayed and I said, God, please help me get through this. I don't know what to do. Now, a quick backstory. When I had this Suboxone, I told my provider, I said, hey, I don't want to be on this. I'm going to taper off. And she said, okay, but I'm going to give you the same amount. So by the time I was tapering, it was like 3 months or something like that. I had a bunch of Suboxone saved up. And it was just sitting in a drawer. And when I was withdrawing from 7-0, I was like, I don't have any money. Like, I was tapped out, officially tapped out. I tried to do Uber Eats, but like in my area, I'd only maybe get $50 for the whole day, and I was in no condition to drive the way that I was withdrawing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try Suboxone for 7-0 withdrawal. At the time, I had been 86 days out from Suboxone. That's the last time I had taken was 86 days. So I was fully withdrawn from Suboxone. I was done. And I had read on Reddit and stuff, people were saying, yeah, don't take Suboxone for 7-0 withdrawal because you're just trading one for another. And also, a lot of people said that Suboxone will send you through worse precipitative withdrawals, and it won't work. A lot of people say Suboxone doesn't touch it. Well, I was already in withdrawals. I hadn't taken anything in like 15 hours. So I was like, oh, well, let's try it. So I took a strip, and I was like, okay, this, whatever, Now, let me say this before anything. I never went above what my doctor had prescribed. So my prescription was still valid, and I made sure that the Suboxone was within that what she prescribed it to me for. So I'm not going to say how much she gave me, what it was daily, but I made sure I stayed at that so that I wasn't misusing it. Nobody could accuse me of whatever. Okay. So I took one strip, and I was like, I hope this works, and it didn't. I took two, and I was like, okay, well, it's kind of making me feel better. By the time I got to my dose that my doctor had originally prescribed, the withdrawal was gone. Mostly. There was still some whatever. I was totally relieved. It seemed like God had put me in a position where I couldn't get 7-0 anymore. And also, keep this in mind, in July 1st, 7-0 is going to be illegal in Wyoming. Well, it's going to be illegal for anything 2% of 7-0 mitragynine. So it's just going to be like regular Kratom, right? And I knew that day was coming. It's like in a month and a half or 2 months at the time. And so I was like, wow, I think he crafted a situation that allowed me to, forcibly withdraw, because I didn't see any money coming in soon, and so for 3 days I took Suboxone. And it worked. Now let me preface this by saying the amount that I took, I wouldn't recommend for anybody. This is just what I did. Because also, if you're getting off of 7-0 and you go to a rehab or a clinic, a doctor is going to probably give you 4 to 8 milligrams, and that's probably not going to touch it. I was in a unique situation where I had backstock, and it was crazy. Like, I still held on to that because I meant to turn it in so that they can destroy it, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. After 3 days, the hard symptoms were gone. There was some, pain in my joints, a little bit of anxiety, but that was it. And people say that 7-0 withdrawal takes about, 4 to 7 days. Well, I'm now 7 days out from taking 7-0. I'm 4 days out of taking Suboxone for it. And I feel normal. It's the first time in my life I haven't experienced any euphoria. No euphoria for the past 7 days. Now, I will say this. One thing that I found it hard to do was the ritual. I'm used to always, I wake up, grab a strip of Suboxone, take it, or 7-0, take it. I use a little chew, and, I'm good. I'm good for the day and whatever. Now I just have, tobacco. That's all I use. And it's interesting that is the thing that's hard for me right now. The fact that I don't have a ritual. And a ritual that, I can do multiple times a day that actually gave me euphoria. Now, some people said you should try Kratom. You do Kratom for a little bit, and they give a ritual and stuff, but I don't think so. 2 days ago I tried mitragynine, which had 0.70. It was tablets, high strength, and I didn't feel anything. And even if I did, I'm sorry, it's cold, I'm shaking. But even if I did, I don't know if I want to do that. Because I was on Kratom for a year or two back in 2019 to 2020, 21. And I used Kratom to get off Methadone. But anyways, that's my story. Now, about 7-0. This is not Kratom. Okay? I wish somebody explained this to me and told me how devastating this stuff can be. I mean, my wife and I are now rebuilding. And I praise the Lord that I have a wife that stands by me. But 7-0 is dangerous. Now, some people are angry that, the federal government, like RFK Jr. is looking into it. They're going to start passing a bill that, hold on. They're going to start passing a bill that is going to make it illegal. And, geez, everything is just going wrong right now. like my state, Wyoming, is going to make it illegal. And people are saying, oh, I think that's unconstitutional. That's not right. Let people do what they want. The problem with that is people are getting so desperate on this stuff that they're starting to commit crimes. Also, people are taking this stuff thinking it's Kratom, and it's not. It's hell on earth. I mean, the feeling that it gives you is second to none, and you can also, like, your tolerance will go up so fast. I started on like 50 milligrams to get off of Suboxone, and I ended up taking 1,000 milligrams. There was this one that was like $100. I can get it for $100 at my local shop, 1,250. And at one point, I did one of those a day. You know, this experience humbled me, and it truly made me believe that God was looking out for me. Since the Suboxone I stopped, my beard, I don't know if you saw my past videos, but my beard is growing really fast. It feels like my testosterone is back, and things between, in my marriage are great. Now, some may say, well, you just use Suboxone to get off, you use one drug to get off another. Yeah, I did. And I did it out of necessity. Because I was hurting so bad, and I had something prescribed to me, and I didn't go over the recommended dosage from my doctor, and I used it. And I still had a whole bunch of leftover Suboxone that I eventually turned in. Once I was done with that 3 days of Suboxone, I was done, and I turned it in, and it got destroyed. Or whatever they do with it. I think they destroy it. But now in my house, there is nothing. There's no 7-0. There's no Suboxone. And I'm feeling great. Now, geez, this is so cold. I gotta turn the heat up in here. I understand people are not going to be in the same position as I am, and the amount of Suboxone that you're going to get is probably not going to stop the withdrawals. But it worked for me. And it took having a mindset of being truly fed up. I have something to live for, which is being a substance use disorder counselor. I'm about halfway through my master's degree program. And I have a mindset where, yeah, I can be addicted to something, but if I really want to stop, I'm going to stop. Now, this doesn't mean I'm better than anybody, or, because if I can get addicted to this stuff, anyone can. But on that flip side, if anyone wants to get off, if I can get off of it, you can too. The one thing I will say is that there's a lot of videos of people documenting their 7-0 withdrawal experience. And they're going through hell, their body's on fire. And I went through that multiple times, but for no longer than a day. I'm still feeling some residual from that withdrawal, like knee pain, and sometimes it's hard to sleep, but I'm just documenting my experience here, and I wanted y'all to know, because I wanted to start talking more about addiction and campaigning against this stuff, because 7-0 hydroxymitragynine, it's essentially processed in a lab. They take the small amount, which is like less than 2% or less than 1%, whatever, available in Kratom, and they take that out, and that's why it's so expensive, because this stuff, it has to be processed. Who knows how much Kratom they waste? I don't know the process actually, but You go there and people are calling this the devil. People are addicted to it. And when it gets outlawed, I'm kind of confident that it's going to go underground. And they even have something at the shop that lined up. It's called like Oxalone or something, or Oloxone. They have things that they're ready to get people hooked on already. But when I walked in that shop and I said, "Hey, guys, I'm 5 days off 7-0," it's like they all cheered. I was like, wow, you guys are really selling this stuff? And they're like, yeah, we don't want to. We work for corporate, but I mean, it helps people with pain, but at the same time, it can be very addictive. And that's true, I'm sure some people will say 7-0 saved my life. That's just what happens. But the video's 25 minutes. Anyways, that's my story, that's my journey. And some may judge me for using Suboxone after I was almost 3 months off of it. But it was worth it to me to get off of 7-0. Because if I would have known, I never would have started 7-0. I thought I was taking Kratom that I can easily get off of after the Suboxone, the 60 days of Suboxone were done. But it wasn't. It was something far worse. And then the thing that I got off of saved me from getting off of the thing that got off of that. So, anyways, God bless. And I'll start posting more videos. Take care.